going on, ladies and gentlemen, saints and ainks, and welcome to Track Talk, a part of the Lactic Acid Network. I'm your host, Dominique Smith, and today I have the official reporter. I guess I always say, Guy Fieri got the Flavor Town USA, but you are kind of like that CNN and CNBC breaking news, all day, every day related to track and field. Brother Colin Waitzman of Track World News joins me. If you haven't followed them, you need to pause this episode and go follow them. They got it all. Colin, what's going on, brother? How you feeling?
I'm doing good, man. I can't complain. Everything's going good. Peak of track season. Got a lot of big meets coming up and had a lot of great competitions recently. So good day, good time to be a track fan, that's for sure.
Great time to be a track fan. So many wonderful lineups. Obviously, the biggest one, in my opinion, being in Monaco before Budapest, because there's so many incredible matchups in Monaco. You got Sharika, you got Sha'Carri, you got so many wonderful runners. Sydney, so many. Listen, y'all just have to go. Be sure to check it out because there's going to be plenty of action, plenty of recaps for it. But today is about the sprints, and today specifically talks about the sprints from a different vantage point at the US Outdoor Championships that just took place. It was crazy. It was unexpected in some ways. If you're not a track fan, I hope you enjoyed it because the action was hot. Now, Colin, you were there, man.
Yeah.
From your vantage point, from the crowd vantage point, I know that the numbers came out, and we all know there's a difference between ticketed and then the actual attendance. And USA Track and Field released the numbers, or Tracktown rather released the numbers a day or two ago. But you were there, you were in the action. Tell me what you saw from your vantage point. Are the numbers being overblown?
Yeah, so great question. For those that don't know, like my regular day job, like I work in professional ticket sales. So this is literally what I do every single day of my life. So I know a lot about track as well as ticket sales. So I got some good perspective here. And so what I'd say is one, like you mentioned, Dom, they're two different numbers. So there's the ticket rate and then the scan rate, I guess you could say. The ticketed rate just means how many total people were issued tickets. So that would be given free tickets or people that purchased, whatever it is. So that would be the number that most of the time, 99% of the time, when sporting organizations are reporting attendance, they're reporting that number, the amount of total tickets that were issued. And then there's the actual attendance rate, or what we call in our industry the drop rate. And that is how many people actually scanned in. And so, like when you're going through and doing the mobile scanners, it's how many people were actually in attendance. That number is always going to be lower than the ticketed number because you have people that just didn't show up for one reason or for another. I know that rating is lower because, I mean, I bought 4 tickets, or we had 4 tickets for my family, and my mom couldn't go, so we only were able to scan in 3. So that's 4 days or whatever that are right there that were reported but as sold but weren't actually attended. So from my perspective, there's 2 things. One, the attendance was higher than whatever they have had in Eugene in the past, which is good. It's progress. But the biggest issue, or the biggest thing that people were talking about, is the fact that the stadium was very empty, which was true. Like I'm not gonna lie to you, the stadium was extremely empty for how large it is. But you have to put that into perspective, how large it is. There's not many track and field stadiums that have the ability to host 12,250 people. It just isn't a thing. Like old Eugene, people would look, well, if you look at old Eugene, it was packed out. It's like, yep. Yeah, because old Eugene had half the capacity. You can only have 5,000 people. So when you can only have 5,000 people, and you have 5,000 people in attendance, it's going to look sold out, or it will be sold out because there's so many seats available. When you sell the same amount of seats for a bigger building, it's going to look like a lot less people are in attendance because they're going to be spread out. That's just how it works. And so that's the case of what happened here. So it looked really empty, but I can tell you it wasn't, because those lines to the concession stand were insane. It would take you at least 30 minutes to get a hot dog, no matter what time you left. You could have gone before the event started, in between events, during events, didn't matter. You went, it was going to take you 30 minutes to get a hot dog. So I can tell you that the attendance was high. One thing, the last thing I could say to this is, it's a shame that the only time this stadium is going to be sold out would be a world championship. Because if you can't sell out at a US championship, then you're never going to sell out other than Worlds. And Worlds was sold out. I went to a few of those, and it was really well attended. They will never, like, if you can't sell out the US champ, there is no other competition. I mean, NCAAs, maybe you may have more people in the stands, but the reason you're having more people in the stands is because more athletes are competing in there, and they're going to be sitting watching their teammates, and you have families watching their family members. So you'll have more people in the stands, but you're not going to sell more tickets, because those are people that are not buying tickets because you're on the team. So it's a shame that they're never going to sell out other than a world championship, and who knows when that's going to be coming here. But that was my perspective on the ticket side. Long-winded explanation, I guess you could say.
I'm curious to see what Prefontaine does, specifically because the Diamond League final is there, and you have that opportunity to see, potentially a Karsten Warholm, potentially a Faith Kipyegon, some of these bigger stars. But at the same time, the timing of the Prefontaine Classic is kind of hard because people are going to be going back to school. Life is going to resume. Most of the travel is going to be centered around Labor Day, which is right before the Classic.
It's during a football game. Like, the Oregon football game is the exact same day as the Prefontaine. So you're not going to get any students from Oregon. Not a single one is going to be going to track, because you have that going, like the home opener of their football stadium, I should say. So,
oh boy,
sorry I interrupted you, but yeah.
No, I mean, I didn't even know that. And as much, and that just makes things insane when it comes to travel, when it comes to travel arrangements, where you're going to stay, this, that, and the other. And Oregon's supposed to have a pretty good team this year, so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. And like you said, it's a beautiful stadium. It's a huge stadium. And it is track town. It is Oregon. I understand they have football, basketball, all that stuff, but when you step onto Oregon, it's just something about that in Hayward Field that is track town. So I don't know. I've said it before, and it's a prevailing argument. Eugene is hard to get into. I mean, that's just kind of the way it is. I know Ray from Ray's Take did a great breakdown of why some of the housing and places to stay is limited compared to previous years. And I mean, in previous years it's hard, but it's a shame. Hopefully they can do more things when it comes to marketing or whatever the case might be, and they do a great job over there. But you don't want to get the camera pan on the back end of the stadium when there's nobody, more so in the straightaway, because if you did see the straightaway, it was packed. It was packed. And listen, those lines, they got good food in the concession stand, but I've been in those lines. It's stupid, insane. So, but listen, we'll get to that. That's another topic for another day.
One last one.
Yeah.
The final point there on the hotels. So in the town, they're building, like, there was like 6 or 7 buildings that were under construction. So they're building more what looks like hotels or maybe apartments. So hopefully that'll be good. And yeah, just like you said, there were essentially no fans on the backstretch, and the camera is on the home stretch showing the backstretch. So of course it's going to look a lot more empty than it actually is. It wasn't like there was so much more people, but yes, you're exactly right. And that's my ticket talk for the
and it's great wisdom. And that's why I wanted to ask you this question, because you did work in sales and you have a comprehensive understanding of how things work. And if you watched the World Championships last year and you saw how filled up it was when Fred Curley and Sidney McLaughlin-Levrone and all those won, and how packed it was, and then you turn on the U.S. Championships, then you're going to be disappointed. I mean, and that's understandable. Yeah. But that's just kind of the way it is and everything. But you were there. You saw some crazy stuff happen firsthand when it comes to the sprints. From your perspective and what you saw, what stood out to you the most? What performances just left that lasting impression? They were all elite. And like I said, there were some, I could tell you, I got some picks wrong. I'm sure a lot of people did. But What was it that stood out to you that left the lasting impression when you traveled back home?
Yeah, there was a lot of things that I look back at and I was like, yeah, that was some amazing performances. Probably the biggest one, and this is because of for a few like one where I was sitting. Like I was, if you follow me on what's it called?
Instagram
Threads
or
on
Threads?
Threads,
The new
the
one.
new the Twitter of Instagram. That I posted a video of where I was sitting. I was row two and literally right on the hurdles. So for the women's hurdles, it was right in front of my seat, and then the men's hurdles was slightly to the right hand side of me.
Mhm.
And so being that close and having the hurdles like right there, like you only it's I grew at an even bigger appreciation of what they do in the hurdles, like seeing how fast they run and being that close to them. It was absolutely incredible. So I'd have to say like Nia Ali, that
Yeah.
win was incredible for me because one, like I didn't pick her to make the team. Like I didn't think she had it in her, and I was clearly very wrong. I mean, you look at if you go back and look at all of my picks that I made, I was wrong with a lot of things, and so I just didn't think she still had it in her. I thought it was going to be changing of the guards, and you were going to see some of the new crew coming in, and I was incorrect. And just being right in front of her and seeing like how quickly and just how talented she was, like going over those hurdles, like not hitting any one of them, just super impressive to me. And you know, just her performance overall was incredible. And so I think that was one of probably one of the biggest takeaways from that I had from that competition, just like how crazy she was over those hurdles.
I was I was not surprised that he won. I was not surprised that he won.
Nia, I was talking Nia Ali.
No, no, I'm talking a different event.
Oh, different event. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Shout out to Nia though, because and I'm gonna get to this in a second. Nia and Kenny Bednarek are just two people you need to think twice before you're picking a team because they always find a way to get it done. I was surprised that Rye Benjamin ran the time that he ran. I because we haven't seen him. He had COVID. He's undefeated, and we knew, that CJ, is coming in strong. And I think, you and I both agree with this. I tweeted it out. Um, you cannot count out Trevor Bassett in these. He could have the worst, regular season possible. When championship season comes around, that's it. Like he's gonna take that spot. And I got that. There was 1, 2, and 3. But 46, 6. I don't know why I didn't expect that because you just don't know, what some of these athletes, you haven't run in a long time. You don't know where they are fit wise. We saw, a guy like Norman who has struggled with injuries, it just wasn't his, championships a year. And we'll see, if he takes that, 400 and runs with it, not, no pun intended, but Rod Benjamin, I think that was huge because it sends a message. Because in my head, I thought Karsten, I'm thinking, all right, that's nobody's touching Karsten this year. Obviously, Dos Santos is coming back, and the three of them, if it all, shakes out, we'll race in Monaco. We'll see how Rye feels and get a nice preview of the World Championships. But I feel like, listen, if Rye is doing this and he continues to improve, I think Rye pulls off the upset. I think he can beat Karsten. I know that sounds crazy because Karsten, if you see him run, he runs crazy. And he has that championship experience. But I think for Rye to come out and do that, that's his fastest time that I believe he's run at a championship, a U.S. championship. And it's like 0.01 off of Karsten's season best, which is just insane. So for me, just to see Rod Benjamin come back and do what he did kind of sends a message that this is going to be much closer than maybe I anticipated, or maybe some people like me who thought like that anticipated.
Yeah, I really like Rye. I would love for Rye to be Carson Warholm, but it's hard for me to say that he will. I mean, that's like the home like if I'm when I put my picks, I'll probably say like yeah, Rye to win because like I would love for him to win. It's just like it's gonna be so hard to do. It's like picking someone to beat Ryan Krauser. It's like picking someone to beat Mondo. It's like it's happened in the past. We've seen it. Like we've seen Joe Kovacs beat Ryan Krauser. We've seen Walsh beat Ryan Krauser. We've seen Sam Kendricks beat Mondo Duplantis. We've seen Chris Nielsen beat Mondo Duplantis. Like we've seen these things happen. But in order to do that, these athletes have to perform at their absolute best. And then you need the of the athletes like Mondo, Ryan Krauser, Carson Warholm, you need them to underperform a little bit. Like, frankly, that's where it is. And it's hard to predict both of those things happening. It's hard to be at your very best when someone is not at their best, and you're both trying to be at your best, which is a championship. So I would love for him to. I think it's storybook, and I think it would be fantastic. It's just going to be super hard to do that, and that's what that would be my dream scenario. Would love to see him come through though.
How about that men's 100? Did you have Cravont Charleston taken to
No,
Olympia?
I didn't, and I'll tell you why I didn't. So, my mind, so it's like my mind is the opposite side. My mind was telling me yes, but my body was telling me no. You know, it's like that's what it was like. Like it was
Man, that was it had to. He had
it
to
was
break out that
like
R. Kelly on that one.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe shouldn't bring up the quote of an awful person, but I digress. So yeah, like the Cravon Charleston, like he was having the most consistent season in a season that has been extraordinarily inconsistent. Like this is like the times are down year this year. Like there's been not really anyone running fast. I mean, you would usually expect a lot more speed coming through. Like for like the last time a 9.9 like won a US championship was what, 2009? Like you have to go back
Long
a
time ago.
long time till you can find something like this. Like it doesn't happen very often, you know? And so that's something that was a little weird to me, but he's been extremely consistent. Like Cravon Charleston like has been extraordinarily consistent, and like that's something that we need to see. And so even watching, like no one knew who won. Like there were times that like Noah Lyles thought that he won. You know, there were times where Christian Coleman thought that he won. Like during that entire time they were adjusting, like I looked over at the athletes, no one kind of knew what was going on. So yeah, I didn't have him winning. I thought that it was going to be Christian Coleman, Noah Lyles, Trayvon Bromell. Bromell was hurt. We ended up learning. But yeah, I did not see it coming. I can tell you that.
Man, it's you mentioned the times. I guess I don't know if I'm naive in thinking because the slowest time as of late, and I have to triple check to make sure that I'm right about this. Just if the times continue on the trajectory to the World Championships, you have to go back to I think 2011 when Johan Blake ran 993 for the win in the men's 100. Um, I will say this for Worlds. If they so we got Zarnell Hughes, you know, he has the world lead right now in the men's 100. But I feel like if it's a race where it's 9-9 under, I can easily see Charleston winning. If it stays within that range because it opens it up for everybody. My pick right now is Fred Curley. I'm not going against Fred Curley right now. He hasn't given me any reason to. I love what Zarnell Hughes is doing. I just, you know, there's just been too many shaky moments, you know, at the big time championships. And it's like I said, Fred has not given me a reason not to pick him to win. But I still like, I don't know. Am I crazy to think that if it's a slower pace 100 or slower than we anticipated, because there's not a slow 100, then the upset could be pulled like that.
Uh, I don't think Cravon Charleston would win. Like, so like this is a guy like I just said I don't think he would win USA's, and then he proved me wrong. And now it's like so I let me be prepared. I mean, this is a guy who he'd never been in an NCAA final. He had never been in a USA final, and then he
Nope.
goes and he wins USA's. And so that's like a big overperformance there. And when it comes to the world title, I don't know. I just think your luck's got to run out at some point, right? Like, I
Yeah.
don't think he's like sure he's talented, but I don't see a world where Fred Curley loses to an American and that American's name isn't Christian Coleman or Noah Lyles. Like, even then, like I don't see. I think it's going to be hard for Fred Curley to lose to a Noah Lyles in a 100. Like and then but you're telling me Fred Curley's going to lose to Cravon Charleston in a 100? Like,
Hey
I don't
man,
see that. So even if it does go, 9-9, like the people that I think have potential to actually win this USA championship, not USA, the world championship, I'd say Zarnell, if he decides not to false start, like this guy's got to show up in a big moment at some point. I think he has enough experience that this would be the year to like get your crap together. It's like fool me one time, shame on me. Like you can't get fooled again. Like eventually he's gonna figure it out, I feel. And then after that, I think it's Christian Coleman is close to getting it. Then I would put Fred Curley as a potential, winner there. And then the last one would be like, maybe like a wild card, like an Akeem Blake. Like I think he could potentially, get in there as well. But I think it's a very short list for winning, the world championships of people that have the ability to do so.
that would have to be a big bounce back for Blake because I mean
Akeem,
this.
didn't he beat Christian Coleman earlier this year at
Yep,
LA.
he did, but didn't he just come in fourth at the Jamaican trials?
Oh, is he not gonna make it? I wasn't sure.
I don't think so. No, he came.
Oh
I
wow.
saw that race. He came in fourth.
Jeez. I
Uh,
didn't I didn't see that. So I missed that. I was basing it off of my remembrance of LA. So if that's the case, then that might change things.
that Jamaican trials was insane. Watching that race, I will say this: if Oblique Seville gets healthy, I would actually want to see how I would replace Blake, him going with Oblique Seville if he's fully healthy.
Talking
Um,
about Jamaican national championships, did you see this Johan Blake situation?
that was the craziest thing. So
That
false,
was in wild. Would never happen to me. It's just crazy. What do you
no.
want to share? Like what it was to everybody? Insane, by the way. Never heard of this. This is a thing you could do.
So, and if I'm foggy on some of it, please jump in.
Yeah.
He false starts, he gets the boot. But for whatever reason, I just see a notification. He comes back, has to run, I believe, what was it, like a 10-2 or
10-2-2. You have to run 10-2-2.
10-2 to advance to the finals, and he runs 10-31. And that's it. Like I didn't see anything in the two. He's not doing the 200. What am I talking about? So pretty much he's done.
Yeah. The thing that's weird, so it's like he it's the fact that he got this extra race. He false started and it was clearly a false start. He should not be able to compete. And if this happens in the US championships, you're done. But the reason he got this extra one is because his name is Johan Blake and they
Blake.
want him to make the team. So they're like, we can't have this guy false start because we want him to make the team. And the thing is, if he makes the final, then he has the ability to potentially be selected on the team anyway, but he didn't even make the final. And so it's just like he's getting selected for this just because his name's Johan Blake. Like you think if this was, any random other person in there that they get to go at false start, like, and then
Unless it's Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt, because
yeah.
that's it. I will say this with Usain Bolt, what's his name? Bailey Cole, I believe was his name. I'm telling you, man, I watched that race in 2013. Bolt lost that race, and somehow the torso got over before Bolt's did, but they gave Bolt the win. So I don't know so I don't mess with Jamaicans because they a little different down there. But US, man, listen, how many people have they thrown out? Just in major champions. We saw what was the last year? Devin Allen on his home turf in Eugene. After everything he'd been through, he had to go he got the boot. So I've never seen anything like that. I think the thing is, I was happy. I think it was in the women's 200. I forgot who false started, but they put a green card up, and I said, "Thank you, God." And they let them roll again. But I've never heard of that, and so I'm following along on Twitter. I was like, "What?" And I'm thinking, did somebody cause him to false start? Was there noise in the crowd or whatever? But no, they just let Brother Man run, and I think that's it for Johan Blake. I mean, he's still getting in these Diamond League meets.
He just signed a new contract with Puma,
Puma.
just like this, literally 3 days before this. So he's got to be running, at least trying to run till next year, I feel. Yeah.
No, I just think they're giving him that Udonis Haslam treatment. Like, just like a spot on the bench of appreciation for everything you've done.
No, because he was with Adidas. So this isn't even the thing that like weird
It
stuff in track. I don't get
I
it.
don't I don't get it, which is kind of crazy when you think like Alicia Johnson and Trevor Bassett haven't been sponsored yet. Um, but hey, dudes who ain't even making it to the final, I guess you well, I mean, you run 1926, I guess you got a lifetime warranty.
Mhm.
With stuff like that. Some that didn't surprise me, two races that did not surprise me. The women's 400 did not surprise me. Nothing about that race didn't surprise me. Um, and the men's 200, I was going back and forth, and I was wrong. First of all, I think Sid breaks that American record soon, and I'm gonna have a question for you about that. But I was wrong, and I would like to issue a public apology because he was hurt, and I didn't understand the significance of the injury. Kung Fu Kenny, I am so sorry because every year you've been in fourth place in every prediction that I've done, and I just need to stop. I just need to stop. What did you make of that men's 200? And then other question. So we know Sid is pretty much in a league of her own. To me, it's a 3-woman race. And shout out to Talitha Diggs. May not have had the college season, but to come back and to run, same thing with Bryn Wilson. We had it all. We're taking like, yeah. I think with the men and the women, it's an all SEC 400 squad. When you think
Oh,
about
really?
that, Bryce Dedman, Texas A&M,
Yeah.
uh,
Brendan Norwood.
Fern Norwood, LSU, and Quincy Hall, if I'm not mistaken, is Florida.
Yeah.
Diggs is
There you go.
Florida. Bryn Wilson,
Kentucky,
Arkansas,
Arkansas, Florida. Yeah.
and then Kentucky for Sid. But like I said, what's your take of the men's 200? And then I think Nasser, Polino are the two biggest threats to Sid. Can any of those two beat her in Budapest?
Hmm. Uh, so with the men's 200, I'd say that yeah. Uh, so I picked Fred Curley to win. Um,
Really?
but yeah, like it's a hot take. Like I think that Arian Knighton was better, but it's like you got to pick upsets every once in a while. Like so,
Fair.
pick an upset. Like I didn't think he was like coming in as favorite. I thought that Arian Knighton and Kenny Bednarik are better than him, but you just don't. What if you're not better on the day? That's what I thought, and I was incorrect. So Arian Knighton, he did really well. Not too surprised. I don't think he's fast. He's not in form to beat Noah Lyles. I don't think anyone's in form to beat Noah Lyles, but he performed well. He did good. And then once again, like Kenny Bednarik, like he's becoming the American Andre DeGrasse. Like that's what he's being known for now of like making teams. And it was like once again, fool me once, shame on me. I made sure to pick him for this team. I picked him in for third, I think. So I didn't quite learn my lesson, but close enough. And so yeah, excited that he was able to make it as well. So yeah, I don't think any of them can beat Noah Lyles. I think that it'll probably be an American sweep in the 200 once again, but yeah, it was solid competition, like really good race. And then on the women's 400, well, yeah, no surprises either. Like I picked all three of those women to win or in the same position as what they ended up getting. Glad to see Talitha Diggs really back into it. I know her college season wasn't as great towards the end of this year, but still was able to perform at a high level. And congratulations to both Britton Wilson as well as Talitha Diggs on signing with Adidas right after, so or before for Talitha Diggs. And so, yeah, overall, like not surprised. I think I think that Sid wins this world championship, like regardless. Like I don't see her coming out of this losing. But yeah, I think Polino could potentially, give her a run for her money. But I'm still going with rocking with Sid. It's hard to beat a world record holder, whether it's in her event or not. And now that she's had a couple 400s in her under her belt, I just think it's going to be really hard to knock her off.
Does she go sub 48?
Um, this year, or you mean like ever?
Oh, I think she breaks the world record next year. But I'm saying, how close does she get to it this year?
Yeah, this year I said she could beat the American record. Like I think it's a possibility. I mean, think this was the first championship that she didn't break a record at since what? 2019. No, before then. Yeah, like
20,
2017, 2018. Like,
2017. Yeah.
yeah, because she's broke it at every championship, US championship, like world championships or Olympics. She's broken a world record. This is the first time in a championship she didn't break a world record. Like, that's incredible. And so I think that she's going to get back on that, especially with her only doing the 400. She's not doing the 400 hurdles. I think, yeah, she could beat that American record, or at least will flirt with it. So I think it'll be gone for sure.
Last roundup, men's 400. Shout out to Bryce Deadman. Talk about somebody who hasn't raced a lot this season. He revealed he was dealing with the injury. I will say this, with him and Vernon, the way they ran, I was a little down on the men's 400. I I low key think Wade Van Niekerk might win the men's 400. That's another story for another day. But I would tease. I'm kind of battling, but hopefully, we can pull somebody, and we'll see what Norman does. If he decides to run, and then hopefully we'll have a strong relay. But the women's 100 and 200. I want to ask you this because there's only Sha'Carri, fantastic job. But the thing I'm curious about, someone made this comment and they said that she has to adjust. She has to slow down in these preliminary rounds, in these preliminary heats, because she's going out too fast and it's taking some out of her when she gets to the finals. Do you believe that to be the case?
Yeah, I mean, it's just looking at the numbers, right? Like, it's not even an opinion. Like, that's a fact. Like, when you look at, like, let's go back to 2021 as well. When she ran, remember when she's pointing at the clock because she ran her, was 7.5, 10.75,
Yeah,
whatever it was. Like,
1075.
that was in the semis. And then she won the final in a slower time. This year, she runs her fastest time in the beginning, and then every other round is slower. Like, that's just a fact of what's happened. And I think experience comes with that. Like, this being her first like team that she's made, I'm sure her coaches are going over this sort of thing and hope that she'll be ready for it. But like, it takes experience to kind of learn how to run through the rounds and get through those sorts of things. I think she was in a different position where it's like no one was beating her regardless. Like you had to be on your best day, she had to be on her worst day in order to beat her. So it's like, I think she probably had a little bit more freedom versus like at the world championship, she's not going to have that freedom. Like, it's going to have to be, you have to build to the championship. It's not going to matter if you run, 10.70 or, 10.69 in the prelims. If you, end up running, a 10.9 in the final or 10.88 in the final, like, you got to make sure that you're running your fastest in at the end, because that's what's going to be important here. So, I'm interested to see how she ends up doing it, but yes, I would agree. I think she's got to make sure that she gets better at the rounds, because she runs really fast, but not at the perfect time. But that I'm sure will get taken care of.
And I think if you compare it to how Shericka Jackson ran her 1065, which that was one of the easier 1065s I've seen in a while. And maybe that's just because how she runs, but she eased her way into it. And then she just unleashed in the 100 and the 200. But speaking of the 200, I was really happy to see Gabby Thomas. And you mentioned something. Gabby Thomas did something in this race that she did not do. I haven't seen her not do, rather. She actually this time ran through the line, which is, I know it's like, oh, it's let them celebrate. But my own thing is, when you got Shericka Jackson, who's 21.4, Gabby certainly has that potential. Every millisecond counts. And so I was like, oh, snap. Like, this is actually very impressive what she was able to do. We're taking a good field in the women's 200. Kayla White, pulls off the, last minute surge of Abby Steiner and obviously Sha'Carri. You think Gabby can beat Shericka?
Yeah, I think she's doing it's possible, but once again, like, it's the Carson Warholm thing where you have to be on your absolute to beat Carson Warholm, to beat Sharika Jackson, to beat all these guys and gals. Like, you got to be on your best day and hope that they're not bringing their A game. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think Gabby at her best can beat Sharika at her best. I don't think it's a possibility. I think Gabby at her best and Sharika at her good, I think that could happen. But if they're both like feeling perfect and all that, like, there's no way that Sharika's losing. But like I said, if she's performing at her best and Sharika isn't, like, yeah, Sharika better watch out, because she's not too far behind, you know.
I think Gabby not running the 100 gives her a little bit of fresher legs, which is what I'm actually curious about where Noah Lyles is concerned. I'm still picking him to win. Don't get it twisted. But I think, okay, Arion 9's coming in as the fresher dude. You know, Noah in a battle, it does just the nature of it, because essentially you're running 200 meters, you're running 100, and then you're running essentially 200 meters in a matter of an hour. Granted, they do have a day off, but I'm genuinely curious to see if that makes a difference. I think Gabby, I don't know. I think she's really coming into her potential. And it gave me something to think about, because it's like, all right, I think either she's going to push Sharika to something fast, really fast, and Gabby's going to be right behind her, or Gabby's just going to flat out win. I don't think there's anything in between. It's either going to be really close or well, that's very vague, but I don't see her not getting the silver at the minimum. I think with the way she's running, and I'm interested to see Sha'Carri too, because Sha'Carri has looked really good in the 200, better than I ever thought she could be. I think that might be the most entertaining race outside of the women's, 100. And then you can't count out Shelly. You cannot count her out. I've never seen anything like it. Specifically on this side, when it comes to the sprints, I feel like what she's doing, some of these athletes, she would be the equivalent of a LeBron James when it comes to longevity and playing at a high level. So that really is something that I'm going to be looking into. But this is our little recap of the sprints. But track world news has been doing some really big things. Obviously, you've grown the staff. You got some different things going on Instagram and all the social media platforms. Can you tell us about what has been going on, where they can find you, support you, and guess what? You can subscribe to the page for in-depth information as well.
Yeah, find me over on Instagram, Track World News. Follow me over on Threads as well, Track World News. We post a couple things on there also. Yeah, we're hoping to get some extra stuff going on for next year. We've got some good support, so want to finish this year strong, and have some things planned that I'm hoping to bring to the people for the following season, which should be pretty good. So all in all, yeah, thanks for having me on, Dom. Really appreciate it. It's always great to talk track with you, and can't wait for Worlds and these other Diamond Leagues and all that stuff that's coming up.
Absolutely. If you like what you're hearing, please, and you guys have a podcast, you still do the podcast. And so check out the old episodes. He's definitely has some incredible guests on the show. If you like what you're hearing here, like, subscribe, share with anybody you know, the Lactic Acid page. And if you like what you're hearing with the podcast, go ahead, leave a like as well. Until next time.